Before I call the next speaker, can I just remind the member that the box that you have on your desk, which talks about GE, is not acceptable. It's not a visual aid in terms of promoting the speech, and I'll ask the member to remove it. I didn't interrupt while the member was speaking. I didn't want to interrupt your speech, but we can't have advertising of any sort other than visual aids that help in the presentation of your speech, and that certainly was outside the realms of that. I'm calling a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, that was exactly what I was talking about as we sat down. But, Mr. Speaker, I never heard a bell.
Well, you went for 10 minutes, and I mentioned the time to wind up. It's not a requirement to ring the bell, and if I overlooked that, but the member had a 10-minute speech, and I did 20 seconds out. I mentioned to the member to wind it up, so you went for a good 10 minutes. I'm calling Colin King.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to speak during the third reading of the food bill. It is a piece of work that the Select Committee worked long and hard over, and when we think as a Parliament what our dining habits were 40 years ago, the old meat and 3 vegetables, certainly today our consumption of food is a lot more complex than it was. Also, from the point of view of the modern world around aligning the various acts, it became very evident that the Animals Product Act needed to align with the Food Act, and that was duly done because as a nation we export 85% of what we produce. However, in saying all that, this particular bill, Mr. Speaker, covers all food sold in New Zealand, including exported food and imported food. There's been a lot of commentary around the country of origin labelling. It would be a mistake to confuse that with food safety, but however, it's a discussion for another day. The mechanism inside the Act or the bill, as it's written, has various levels of risk-based assessment. And from that point of view, those that are producing high-risk foods will have to have a written food control plan, and they will be audited against that. Those that produce medium to low-risk foods, they will operate under, effectively, a national food plan. And there's 3 levels of those food plans, but again, the verifiers will, in actual fact, audit the national plan as to the activities of the person that is operating that business, and that's quite important because it gets away from the one-size-that-fits-all that was in the old Act and is far more appropriate. There is a lot of complexity. When I think of my community in Marlborough, it will be pretty straightforward, but when you think of a massive city like Auckland, it is going to be incredibly complex to work through. So one point that needs to be made, that this is a very good piece of legislation. The Select Committee applied itself to it very, very well, worked very, very collegially. However, Mr. Speaker, we do have to watch the cost that this could potentially add to business, and that's going to be a responsibility, no doubt, of this Parliament going forward. So, Mr. Speaker, it gives me great pleasure in seeing this bill get to this stage, and I must give full commendation to the Minister, Nikki Kay, for ushering it through Parliament. Thank you very much.
I call Richard Prosser.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to rise on behalf of New Zealand First to speak for this third reading of the food bill.